Good morning and welcome to day 17 of Advent. Not going to tell you what the title for Jesus is just yet, but I'm sure you're going to be able to guess it in a few minutes. This is one of my favourite parts of the day. You know, you've been in bed all night, sound asleep, and you wake up in the morning and you're hungry and you come downstairs and your work the night before has borne fruit. You've chucked some ingredients into this little box behind me. Press the button, and in the morning, as you come down the stairs, the smell of freshly baked bread hits you as you come into the kitchen. It's brilliant. This is one of these things that we keep in a cupboard for many months of the year, and then suddenly we'll find it's here waiting for us. And you've got freshly baked bread ready for you in the morning. For many cultures, bread is considered the staple food of life. I remember a Jewish friend coming for a meal a while back, and afterwards he said, "It's been lovely to break bread with you. I thought that was odd at the time because there hadn't been any bread on the table. But in Jewish culture, all food came under the umbrella of bread." In short, we need bread to live. You've probably guessed the name for Jesus today. Another one of the I am statements in John's Gospel. Statements where Jesus uses brilliant metaphors to describe to us what he came to do as rescuer, as saviour. This morning, Jesus' words in John 6, "I am the bread of life." And it's a very important metaphor, and it has all sorts of echoes all the way back through the Bible. Lots of things went on in the Old Testament that were pointing to Jesus and his fulfillment in this wonderful statement, "I am the bread of life." When God rescued his people from Egypt, one of the things that marked the Passover was bread, unleavened bread, and they ate it together to mark what God had done, and then they headed off to their promised land. When God's people were wandering in the wilderness, God provided for them by raining bread from heaven every night. So when they got up in the morning, all they had to do was go and pick it up. 1,500 years later, when Jesus was in the wilderness with a large crowd, he was teaching them, and at the end of the day, they were hungry. There was precious little food around. And in a clear echo of the provision of manna from heaven, Jesus provided for the great crowd with 5 loaves and 2 small fish. When people started following Jesus as a meal ticket, Jesus tried to divert them from just following him to get some physical bread. And he wanted them to focus on him as spiritual bread. Physical bread gives you physical life. Jesus was offering them spiritual bread himself to give them spiritual life. We're familiar with that. Well, I say we. In the church where I used to be part of, we had a baker in the church family. And every Saturday he would bake far more bread than he could sell in his bakery on the Saturday. He would fill his boot up with it on the Sunday morning and bring it to church. And so we went to church and we got the bread of life as we listened to the preaching and we worshipped God together. And then we went outside and we picked up some physical bread. It was lovely, and we could take that home. The trouble was, as sometimes we were coming out of church, we would spot people who lived in the neighbouring houses who hadn't been to church just slipping into the car park to help themselves to bread from the baker's van. Now that was okay, he didn't mind particularly. But that was what was going on in Jesus' day. People were getting fixated on the bread that Jesus was giving them that they could put into their mouths, and Jesus wanted them to focus on the bread that he was giving them that they could nourish their hearts and their spirits with. So Jesus says to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever eats of me will never go hungry." To quote Michael Card again, which I haven't done for a few days, And so the light became alive, and manna became man. Jesus is the bread of life. A few months after Jesus made that great statement in John 6, we see him expanding the metaphor even further, when at the Last Supper, as he closes down the Passover meal, he takes the bread that was on the table, the bread that was used to commemorate God's rescue of them from Egypt. And as he took the bread, he broke it, he pulled it apart, he ripped it, and he said, "This is now my body, which is broken for you. Eat this bread in remembrance of me." This Christmas, we need to remember that was who was in the manger. Jesus, the bread of life. Of course, Jesus does provide for us physically. He told us in our praying to ask God to give us this day our daily bread. But more importantly, he provides for us spiritually. And he did that by allowing his body to be broken. Why not pray today that you would experience in spiritual hunger, and that you would then know Jesus, the bread of life, filling you?